As we've been reporting, later today, the House of Representatives is expected to reject a bill to extend the payroll tax cut after a compromise plan fell apart over the weekend. Without a deal, 160 million Americans could be paying more tax in the new year. Let's bring in Isabel Sawhill, Senior Fellow in Economic Studies at the Brookings Institution and a former Associate Director at the Office of Management and Budget. She joins us now from Washington. Ms. Sawhill, welcome to Bottom Line. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Ward McCarthy, the chief financial economist at Jefferies & Company, told my colleague Tom Keene today that failure to extend the payroll tax cut and long-term benefits for unemployed Americans into 2012 might reduce economic growth next year by as much as 1 percentage point. Do you agree with that assessment?
I do agree with that assessment. That's a very standard forecast right now, or prediction of what might happen if we don't extend the tax and the benefits. It really will have an economic effect, which is why it's so important for Congress to do something.
When S&P downgraded the U.S. in early August, sentiment fell and economic data, including payrolls and manufacturing, they pointed to an economy that was heading toward another recession. Would a failure to extend the payroll tax cut and long-term unemployment undo some of the gains that we've seen since the summer?
It would definitely have a negative impact on growth. We don't, of course, know what growth will be in the absence of this change. So if you assume, though, that growth is going to be modestly positive going into 2012, this could reduce it by as much as a percentage point, and that could raise the unemployment rate by as much as about half of a percentage point. We can't predict these things with any precision, but that's definitely the rough direction and magnitude of the effect to be expected. So if the economy were teetering on the brink of a recession because of slow underlying growth, this would be definitely enough to tip it into recession. And given all of the concerns about what's going on in Europe, this is a very bad time for policy to start producing a negative drag on the economy.
Ms. Sawhill, earlier this month, economists surveyed by Bloomberg News forecast that the U.S. economy will grow 2.1% next year after expanding 1.8% this year. And those numbers do hinge on consumers' ability to spend. Would Americans be willing to spend the extra money they receive from the payroll tax cut, or will they likely save it because of continued concerns about the economy?
Consumers are likely to both save some of any payroll tax cut extension and spend some of it. One of the things about a payroll tax holiday is it mainly affects people in the middle class and below, because the threshold for the payroll tax is a little over $100,000 a year in earnings. So most of the people who are going to get the most money have relatively modest incomes. However, there are wealthier people who will get some benefit from this, and they likely will save most of what they get.
If the payroll tax cut is not extended, can we then expect the Fed to step in and perhaps be more aggressive to prevent the unemployment rate from rising?
The Fed certainly takes into effect what's happening on the fiscal front in deciding what to do with monetary policy. So I would expect them to make some adjustments. On the other hand, there's not a great deal that they have that they can do. There are just not that many arrows left in their quiver.
Ms. Sawhill, we have about a minute left. What's your time horizon for a full recovery of the U.S. economy?
You know, I am not a good economic forecaster. If I were, I probably would have made a lot of money by now. So I think it's going to be quite some time. I think most experts believe this is going to be a long, slow slog back to some level of normal growth and normal unemployment rates. We've dug ourselves a very large hole, and when you've dug a large hole, it takes a long time to get back out of it.
Isabel Sawhill, Senior Fellow in Economic Studies at the Brookings Institution, former Associate Director at the Office of Management and Budget, joining us from Washington. Ms. Sawhill, thanks for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having